Welcome back to The Outright Effect, a podcast in which unique perspectives challenge us to be better versions of ourselves. We're two ambitious women who talk about how we like to stretch our creativity and work on self-growth to become better people. I'm Tempsy.
And I'm Shelly, and today we have a special guest. Her name is Ashlyn, and she is a social media educator. You know how getting your business seen on social media can feel overwhelming? Well, Ashlyn teaches what many people don't know about social media marketing. When she's not posting on Instagram, she can be found entertaining her 3 kids at home with a cold cup of coffee in hand. She believes that all moms deserve to have successful online businesses so they can leave their jobs if they want to. So, Ashlyn, thanks for joining us today. We're super excited to have you on this episode.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, why don't we just get started with the basics? So, why don't you tell us about your business?
Sure. So my business is called SmarterMomsOnline. And basically, just like you said, I teach social media education to help moms market themselves and make sales from social media, essentially.
That's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I can definitely see how, in today's world, that's super helpful and like useful information. So many people are starting online businesses. And I think, having that background and being able to teach them all of those things or, guide someone through starting up their business, I think that's really important and great.
Absolutely. Thanks.
So what inspired you to start a business?
It happened years and years ago, back when, do you remember when beauty gurus were the big thing on YouTube? Like when they just started? Well, my favorite, I don't like saying guru. It's weird. My favorite beauty vlogger to watch was Judy from It's Judy Time. Mm-hmm. Do you guys know her?
Everyone knows her. Not personally, but I've seen her a channel before. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
I used to watch her all the time. And it clicked to me one day how I was like, how are they able to do this? How are her and her husband able to just make videos and not have to go to work? Like I was watching her from the very beginning when she only had like 500 subscribers or something like that. So call me a stalker, but I was Googling everything and I found this random video of her husband, Benji, up like talking at an event that they held in the Philippines. And it was on this other girl's channel. And he talked about Gary Vaynerchuk and that book called The 4-Hour Work Week. And then I went down a rabbit hole. So from there, I was like, wait a minute, I can actually start a business online. Let me look more into this. And that was, how long ago was that? 10 years ago?
Yeah, that was going to be my guess, actually, because I would definitely say like Judy's probably one of like the quote unquote like OG YouTubers back in the day. Yeah. I feel like, sadly, I feel like a lot of the people who I think maybe you and I have been following along through all the years, the OG ones, I think some of them have like stopped doing it, which is kind of sad because I'm curious about what they're doing today.
Same.
And that whole landscape has changed a lot. So I think it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I agree with you. I feel like I also pull inspiration from people who I watch on YouTube as well. And same curiosity, like, how are you able to do this? So it's so funny, right?
Yeah. I don't even watch a lot of YouTube. This is Tempsy talking. So I get my inspiration from YouTube. People like YouTube because I just don't watch a lot of YouTube. So to hear you guys talk about this is super inspiring. So it's really cool.
Yeah. So what's the first step that you took, Ashlyn? How did you get started?
So the first step I took was just experimenting. It's very, very embarrassing. Like, please don't go looking for me online. And I know now that I've said that, everyone's going to be like, oh, wait, let me go look for her online.
I know I am.
Scroll to the bottom and look at all the old stuff, right?
Don't do it. Don't do it. The very first step I took was I recorded a makeup tutorial.
Oh, really?
It was terrible because I had bad lighting. I was using like what kind of camera was that back then, or phone? It was like an iPhone 4 maybe. It was, back in the day whenever it came out. Yeah, it was terrible. After watching it, I thought it was good because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It's my first video and I published it on YouTube and I was waiting for all the views to come in and nothing, like crickets.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? So yeah, that was the very first step I took, was just getting out there, publishing something, and then learning along the way. And it's very embarrassing, but
I think
that's
though, if you go back and you look at all of the people who've been around for like a long time, I mean, everybody's videos look like that. So I don't think it's anything to be like embarrassed about. I think only in the past couple of years has everyone like super like amped up their game and literally look like they have studios at home, which, a lot of them do at this point.
mhm.
But yeah, I felt kind of like that recording anything the first time as well. And I have seen some of your old videos, but I think it was more
Oh no.
like maybe business or like career related. You did some of those too, right? And like kind of fashion-ish, like DIY fashion kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Now you're the stalker.
I think when we first met, I probably seen some of those videos back then. So it was like 5 years ago. You know what I mean?
Now that you say that, I
Yeah.
do remember you mentioning that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, I started to dip my feet into teaching social media. And I think that one fashion video you were talking about, I was copying something I found on Pinterest. And I thought, well, I'm just going to repurpose this and post it as a YouTube video.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that one, if it's the same one I'm talking about, or that you're talking about, that one exploded. But that's all it got. It was just lots of views, but nothing came of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
how did your business evolve over time then, right? From starting just putting a makeup tutorial out there to now educating folks on how to best utilize social media for revenue?
That's a great question. A lot of it came from mostly finding out what I am interested in doing and what I like to teach, and then mixing that with what people were responding with. So makeup, it didn't work out because there were so many people already doing it back then. And, obviously did not have the quality of a lot of the other people out there. And so my videos got lost in the sea of other videos. And so I said, okay, well, I really like learning about social media and how to use that for businesses. Well, let me give that a shot. So that's what I started doing. I started posting some like Instagram tutorials right when Instagram came out, how to use it for business. And that started to pick up some traction. But I was still kind of piecing the puzzle pieces together, trying to make it all fit. And I just could not figure out how to make them fit. But that's kind of the beauty of entrepreneurship, is that you go out there and you respond to what others are responding to. And if it's working and people are responding, then you do more of that. If people aren't,
Mm-hmm.
then find a new track. And that's really what I did to where I am today now. A
Yeah.
lot of
And I
trial and
think
error.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because when I started my YouTube channel as well, I didn't know what kind of response I was going to get. And same thing, like some of my old videos have like the least amount of views, like 20 still, I think, like they're still really low. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, this is at least good for me to know because I did cast a wide net just to see what was going to come back because you kind of don't know like what people are going to like what you talk about, I guess, if that makes sense, right? Because like
True.
same thing, I personally am interested in beauty, but when I talk about it, those are not videos I get a lot of views on. But other videos that I talk about, non-beauty related stuff, I get more views on those. So I think it just kind of depends on like people's preferences, which is it's kind of like an interesting experiment, I guess I would say.
But
I
that's
like that. I
also
agree
consistent.
totally.
I think that's consistent too with the first interview that we had. We had another business owner on, and she had mentioned the same thing. So we're hearing a consistent message, not just from business owners that are coming on and donating their time to interview with us, but also Shelly is experiencing that, and just making sure that you're catering to the people that are giving you the most attention, because those are the people that are going to hopefully become consistent.
Loyal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
loyal. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Um,
Absolutely.
so it sounds like you might have, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ashlyn, it sounds like you might have started off maybe in the YouTube realm, but what are the different, channels and avenues that you use today?
I am on Instagram heavily and Facebook. I used to do Facebook groups like no one's business. That was my jam. And then actually just recently I started using Instagram more because I saw what a powerhouse it is for business owners. And YouTube, not so much.
Yeah. And is it just based on like your personal preferences that you decided to make the switch or based on, the audience that you have?
It's definitely a mixture of both. Facebook groups is where I started my jam. I was like, I'm going to start a Facebook group. I'm going to attract all these people to it, like a very specific type of person. And it worked. It exploded. Exploded so much to the point where I didn't know what to do with it anymore. And I had to force myself to learn what to do with that group. Then I was like hearing a lot of buzz about Instagram. So I ventured into there because a lot of the people who are in my Facebook group were also on Instagram. So I started connecting with them there. And I started seeing the power of it where I was like, holy guacamole, this is more than just posting a photo or posting a video or sharing what you're doing on stories. This is like an actual marketing machine that can bring in sales. So that's what sparked my interest in just focusing a lot on Instagram.
All right. So, Ashlyn, what kind of, you were in the corporate world before. How did you kind of make that jump into, saying, I'm done with the corporate world and I'm going to strictly be, in the entrepreneurial space? How did that kind of come about? And was it difficult to make that decision?
It was definitely difficult and it was messy, very messy. It started shortly after I had my first daughter. And the thing, it wasn't about wanting to stay home with her. It was more along the lines of I was already exhausted from staying up and nursing her, like not getting any sleep, and then having to wake up and to, commute. I was commuting by the bus. Commuting all the way to downtown and coming back, and I just did not like that. And so I was like, there's got to be another way. What can I do to make this happen? So I took a very messy leap. Basically, I looked at my numbers, my personal finance numbers, and I said, can I make this work? My number said yes. And I said, I'm going to do this. I told my husband, hey, I'm going to do this. He was very reluctant about it, very. But I kind of just forced my way to go because I knew I can't be living like that. So I did. I took a messy leap and it was scary. I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat it and say that it was like smooth sailing because it wasn't. It was a lot of figuring things out as I was going along with having a baby on hand and figuring out how to make a business on the side. And that's what I did. I wish there was like a smooth sailing story to go with that, but it's very messy. But it was done with it was like an informed financial decision I made. So not
Sure.
just leaping blindly out of the corporate world. I definitely had to make sure that things were going to be okay, which is why I ran my numbers. My numbers said I was going to be okay, still scared. But then
Yeah.
I took the green light and went into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and I think that's a very smart thing that you did to, take a step back, take a look at things before you make that change. Um, and at the end of the day, doing the thing that's right for yourself, right? And what you feel like will make you happy overall, right? Lifestyle changes and stuff like that. So I think,
Absolutely.
that's a great thing to share with other people. Because I think, so many of us out there hesitate, right, with making that kind of change because there are so many ifs, but people can overcome the stuff that they don't know, right? I mean, there is like you
True.
said, a matter of figuring it out, which
Mm-hmm.
is just part of it. So
And there might be people
Yes.
out there who are just at the precipice of jumping into that, entrepreneurial space and are worried about it, or people who have just jumped into it and are thinking, oh my gosh, this is messy. And I think you being vulnerable and saying that really helps those folks maybe think about, what, I just got to keep doing what I came here to do and continue to be resilient and persistent so that I can get to that space where I'm actually bringing in revenue and making a life for myself, the life that I want. So I think that's a great point to make too.
So Ashlyn, you mentioned having, starting off on YouTube for a little bit, and then having your Facebook group and, transitioning onto Instagram. So how are you engaging with, people who are following you? Like, is a form of your business like one-on-one consultation, or is it purely just, blasting out tips to the masses? That kind of, what the wheelhouse of your business, I guess, is what I'm asking.
The wheelhouse is definitely Instagram stories. I will share all my knowledge on stories, and people will DM me and they'll ask me more about it. And that's where the connection and the business really starts, is because in the DMs or the direct messages, you're able to have intimate conversations with people that they may not be comfortable with sharing in a comment or, in a public setting. So that trust just elevates 1,000 times more than it would in an Instagram comment. From there, that's where I can connect them to, okay, what is their deepest problems and what's preventing them from reaching that solution? And then I send them my offer. Well, here's how I can help. And it just converts so well in the DM, because people don't feel like you're trying to sell to them. You're having a one-on-one conversation that is genuinely just a conversation.
Yeah. I think that's very true and important to call out. So when you start working with, people out there, is it like, it's not a one-time thing, right? You're kind of like there with them along the way for maybe a period of time, just depending on what they're looking for help with.
For sure. I actually don't, I say in my marketing that you work with me for X amount of time, but really it's for as long as that person needs, because I'm not in business to make the money. Money, of course, is important, but what's more important to me is that people see results and they're comfortable with it to the point where they understand it and they can do it on their own and go teach somebody else if they wanted to.
They become your marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what's really going well in your business right now?
Oh, it's going to come back to Instagram stories is going very well. I'll tell you, it's not easy, because as a mom of 3 kids, very young kids, they're all still at home. Being on Instagram stories, you can't automatically schedule that. They need to allow that. How easy life would be if we did that.
I did just want to say, though, that I do really like looking at your Instagram stories. Like, I feel like you have a lot of great content on there, super helpful stuff, super engaging, and a lot of like really awesome tips. So yeah, I've been watching your Instagram stories a lot, participating when I can. Yeah.
I really love them. Like the tips that you provide are so simple, but like I never would have thought of them. Like, you know what I mean? Your foresight and your thoughtfulness, I think it's really great. And I love how you share it with your entire audience. So
thank you. And it's interesting because you're not the first person who has said that. And to me, because I've been doing this for a while, I'm just sharing things that come very natural to me, right? Because it's stuff that I already know. And then I think that can relate to others too, who are thinking, well, how can I start my own business? Nobody is interested in learning what I want to learn. And that's why I always share, like, teach what comes naturally to you, because you'll be fascinated by how many other people don't even know what you know. And I've told that to so many people where they're like, nobody would even listen to me. And I'm like, give it a try. Just take what you know and throw it out there and watch the responses come in. So for example, my sister is an amazing, amazing artist. She can draw, I want to say it's anime or manga, whatever it is, the Japanese characters.
Mm-hmm.
She can draw that like no one's business. And I'm like, why don't you just teach someone how to do that? And she's like, all I do is draw. This is what I do for fun. And I'm like, you don't understand how many people are Googling how to draw anime. And so I showed it to her. There's 100,000 people a month looking for that. And I'm like, why don't you put yourself out there and teach those 100,000 people?
Yeah, she could be on like Skillshare or something, right?
For sure. And there's just that mindset block that I'm noticing in a lot of people when they're kind of intimidated to hop on stories, for example, to share their knowledge and it's because they don't think that anybody would want to learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they think that you'd have to go and get like a sophisticated degree in whatever subject that is, and then have work experience within that industry to be able to, provide guidance.
Speak to it.
Yeah, but if you've been doing it for so long, the ins and outs of it. You don't have to go to college, and become an expert by the standards of, who, I don't know. You can just be your own expert and share that information. And that's the whole point of this podcast is, sharing different perspectives, because we all, whether we went to college for whatever it is that we're trying to put out there or not, we have lived a life so far, not a full life, but we have lived a life so far. And so we want to hear everybody's perspective because we all have something to offer. And I think that's a great tip.
Absolutely.
So Ashlyn, have you been facing any challenges with your business, or, what's going on right now?
For sure. One of the biggest challenges is actually finding balance, if that even exists. Balance between parenting and working is unreal, especially when COVID hit, right? And everybody was required to stay home. Previously, I could just drop my kids off at my parents' house. I mean, I'm very, very fortunate to have that. I don't even take that for granted at all. I was able to just drop them off, and then I could come back home and just work nonstop. Because I mean, when you're a parent, you've got to have time management down to a T if you want to get anything done. And now, since they're home with me all the time, it is challenging. A lot of my work I find is being done after the entire household has gone to bed. And I'm literally fighting to stay awake to get work done. I'm not going to sugarcoat that either. That is the reality of what running my business is like right now.
So what keeps you motivated then to kind of like push through and make sure that you're continuing to, stick to your business when, you could potentially take a break anytime you wanted, right? You're self-employed. So how do you kind of keep motivated in that sense?
When people who I don't even know reach out to me and they say, thank you for helping them, I'm just like, wow, it just blows my mind. You never know who's watching you out there. Someone you don't know, someone you may never even meet in your entire life. You're having an impact on that person. And when I get messages like that, that's what keeps me motivated. I'm like, there's somebody out there who is actually learning and I'm making an impact on their life. I would feel terrible. I'm probably the only person in the world who they're learning this from. If I don't show up for them, who else are they going to turn to? Yeah, they could go find somebody else for sure. But for right now, in this moment of their life, they know that I'm the authority in that space and they want to learn from me. And that's what keeps me motivated.
That's awesome.
That's great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are there any business metrics or, data pieces that you use that help you track where you're heading, and maybe even tell a story where you want to make some tweaks to what you're doing operationally?
Operationally, it's messy also. I'm not even going to lie. The metric that I am very focused on at the moment are Instagram story views and profile visits, along with website clicks. And the reason for that is because stories, they're showing up on the Explore feed, on the Explore page. And so occasionally I'll notice a story shows up on there. And I know because that's where a lot of views are happening on that one particular story. And then if I notice the consistency, which means the same amount of views are happening with each slide, there's not a lot of drop-offs, then I know I'm onto something. Whatever that message was is working and resonating with my audience. From there, I usually give a call to action in my stories to visit my profile. So then again, the metric comes, how many profile views do I have? And if there are a lot, then I know, okay, that call to action is working. Now from the profile, I want them to either click on my link in my bio, or watch my highlights, because in the highlights is where I have even more info that they can just binge consume. And then if I can see how many people are clicking on the profile, then I know, okay, now that particular link is working. So those are the metrics that I'm focused on right now at the moment.
Very interesting. I never thought, you could go so deep on Instagram. I'm sure Shelly knows all about that stuff, but I have looked at like the drop off when it comes to slides and stories. That's super interesting because if you're keeping your audience engaged, they're going to want to stay through through all of your slides. So that's something that I was recently noticing in some of our Instagram stories, seeing if there are any drop offs throughout. So wow, super interesting.
Cool. Is there anything exciting coming up for your business that you'd like to share?
This is interesting. I'll share real quick. I had no plans on sharing the personal finance side of my business at all, because I really wanted to just share about social media marketing and how moms can use that in their business. But I asked my audience in my stories what they want to learn about, because I started sharing some of my students' results on what they were doing to their checking accounts. They were going from like a few $100s to tens of thousands of dollars within a year. And that started piquing a lot of people's interest. And so I asked them on stories one day, a few times actually, I was like, what do you want to learn about? How to attract followers or the bank's secrets? And everybody, except one person, everybody chose the bank's secrets. And I was like, okay, I'll just share it with them and see what happens, what comes of it. So I just did that this past week actually, and it exploded. I was like not expecting people to even be that interested in it, but they were. And so on Tuesday, I shared secret number 1, Wednesday, secret number 2, and then Friday, secret number 3. And going back to what I was saying about tracking the views on each story, secret number 3, I thought for sure nobody is going to watch this whole thing. I mean, up at the top of Instagram stories, you can see like those lines. Yeah, there were dots. It was just dots going all the way across. And I'm like, no one is going to watch this. It was ridiculous. But you know what? It started with, I'll just say only 20 people total did not watch it all the way to the end, but everybody else stuck on. So I would say, if I had to put a percentage to that, 80% of people watched the entire thing. That was an 11.5-minute story.
Wow.
That's great. That's like watching a video, right?
Yes. I was like, this should have just been an IGTV. But the reason I didn't post it as IGTV is because I wanted to keep track of who was watching my story so that I could keep them as leads. And so that was kind of unexpected. And then I have DMs to get back to, but people are like, well, how can I do this? Do you teach this? Are you taking students? Can I learn from you? And I'm like, whoa. I had no idea it was going to do that. So that's that. I guess that's what I'm going to be learning or teaching people these upcoming weeks.
So the moral of that story is just ask your audience what they're looking for based on what you know, I guess.
Yes, do it. Let them vote. Put up a poll. What do you want to learn about? And let them vote and do it.
So let's transition into some other questions now. Thinking longer term, what are your overall goals for your business?
My overall goal is to help 100 people master their social media marketing. That is the overall goal. It was the 2020 goal, but I'll tell you, as we all know, 2020 sure threw us a curveball, didn't it?
Sure did.
Oh yeah, seriously.
Okay. Repivot. Let's make a new game plan. And I'm like, okay, let's just do this. If I can get it done in a year, cool. I'm not connecting myself.
Like realistic expectations.
Yes, I'm not trying to attach myself to the results of I need to help 100 women in 365 days. Like that just leads to burnout. So that is the overall goal, is to help 100 women. They don't need to be moms. Help them master social media marketing with their own businesses.
Cool. I think that's a good one. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Anything else that you want to add in terms of maybe tips and tricks, or anything else that you wanted to mention about your business that you wanted to share with the audience?
Yeah, I would say since all I've been talking about really is Instagram stories, be on there daily and just ask what your audience wants to learn and do it, and then deliver it in a way that they can interact with you. So instead of just keeping like the full frame of yourself, say you're talking to your phone, pinch the video down to make it different sizes and add something that'll let them interact. Tell them what to do in, every few slides. So if you want them to take a screenshot, say screenshot this. Or if you want them to vote, tell them, hey, make sure you vote. If you said something very, very important, make the algorithm work in your favor. So the algorithm will love you if your viewers are tapping backwards on your stories, because that means you want to see that again. So they want to show your account to those viewers again. So tell them, post something fun that you want them to screenshot, for example, and then on the next slide say, hey, make sure you go back and screenshot that because I'm going to give you a pop quiz at the end, or give them some kind of fun thing to keep it interactive with your audience. People go nuts over that without even realizing they're going nuts over it. But that's just kind of what I've been noticing within the past almost a year on just focusing on Instagram stories. If you can keep it engaging, your audience will crave you like they crave the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, like reality TV in general. You can't help but go back and watch that. Like, who's a fan of 90 Day Fiancé?
I watch
You
it,
know
but
what
my
I mean.
husband will not let me. He's like, we're not watching this.
But that's kind of the tip that I would give, is to keep your stories interactive, make it engaging. Like when you watch TV, right? The TV doesn't stay on that same screen for more than 3 seconds. Do the same thing with your stories. Make it engaging, interacting, and your audience will love you for it.
And if you
Cool.
don't know what your audience is, or what's going to engage them, think about what you go back and look at. Because I didn't even think about that. I didn't know that was part of Instagram's algorithm. If you go back in a story, to view it again, I didn't realize that was part of their algorithm. But that completely makes sense to me. So if you're not sure what's going to engage your audience, the only thing I can think of is like, what engages you? What do you go back and look at again? And then kind of
Yes.
find a way to channel that into your business. But I think you have so many amazing suggestions and, creative ways of utilizing social media, Instagram, Facebook, and I'm blown away by it. So if you folks want to learn more, we always have with these interviews, we have pre-meetings, and Ashlyn gave us some great tips on marketing our podcast, things that, we'd never thought of before, or things that we have thought of, but she provided enhancement tips. So I really encourage anybody out there who wants to just learn more about really focusing in on growing their social media presence. Definitely a great person to reach out to. So we really appreciate all of the suggestions and advice that you provided to us as well.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to give as much as I can.
All right, so this part of our interview is called Rapid Fire Questions. We're just going to throw some questions at you. These are typically from episodes that we've recorded in the past, and we want to get your perspective on them. And so just the first thing that pops into your mind, just let us know what you think. You ready?
Okay. Ready?
All right. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to start a business?
Start messy. Done is better than perfect.
That's a great one. I love that. What's your creative outlet?
I play the piano.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that.
I like to sit at the piano and play. And right now I'm practicing that song, Can We Talk by Tevin Campbell.
Oh.
That oldie. Yes, I love playing the piano.
Awesome. All right. Where's your favorite place to travel, or what does your dream vacation look like?
Oh, gosh. Does it have to be one place?
No.
It's okay. Okay, good. Because it's Disneyland and Las Vegas, hands down.
Love it. I'm all in for Las Vegas. Disneyland, I'll be okay with that when my kid is old enough to recognize that we've put a lot of energy into getting him to Disneyland, but I'm all for Vegas.
Vegas for sure. It is the eating that hooks me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Ashlyn. We really appreciate you taking the time to be on our little podcast. We really love that entrepreneurial mindset and really enjoyed just hearing your thoughts and your perspective and how you've kind of gone through your journey. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Ashlyn, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you?
You can find me on Instagram at SmarterMomsOnline.
Cool. Anywhere else? Is that where you want everyone to go?
Yeah, they can go
Okay.
find me there.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of The Outright Effect. You can find us at theoutrighteffect.com. Follow us on our social media accounts on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at The Outright Effect. You can also reach out to us by emailing us at theoutrighteffect@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.